Welcome to our explainer on building a culture of high trust. I'm your host, Taylor, and I'm really excited to walk you through a playbook for leadership.
So let's just jump right in with a really powerful statistic from 5E Leadership's research. Look at these numbers. This shows that trust isn't some nice-to-have soft skill, right? It's a critical, measurable performance metric. It directly impacts your team's well-being and your bottom line.
And that brings us to our first key area, really understanding the why. Because to truly get why trust is so essential, we've got to start by looking at the very real, very high costs of not having it.
You see, when trust is low, the whole environment just gets filled with fear and uncertainty, and that directly attacks what we call psychological safety on a team. Now, when people feel psychologically unsafe, their natural, hardwired response isn't to innovate or collaborate. It's to protect themselves, to seek security.
So what do we mean by psychological safety? Well, it's this shared belief that you can speak up, you can offer a new idea, maybe even admit a mistake, without getting punished or humiliated for it. And according to Rusty Calloway's research, leaders who intentionally build this foundation of safety and trust, they're the ones whose teams really thrive, especially when things get tough.
Okay, so if building trust is the goal, how do we know if we're actually winning? How do you even measure it? That's what our next section, the what, is all about. We're going to look at a framework for understanding what a high-trust environment actually looks like in practice.
And here it is. This is the 8 pillars of trust framework. I want you to think of this as the scoreboard in the game of leadership. And it's not vague stuff. These are real, behavioral, observable principles. You see 4 of them here: clarity, compassion, character, and competency. The other 4 are commitment, connection, contribution, and consistency. Together, they show you exactly where trust is strong, and maybe more importantly, where it might be leaking.
Now, this slide makes a really critical distinction. Knowing the score is absolutely essential. You have to know where you stand. But just knowing the score isn't enough, right? You need the plays to actually change it.
So that brings us to the playbook itself, the practical how. To get us started, we're going to zero in on 2 foundational pillars that you can put into action right away: clarity and credibility. Let's start with clarity. Why here? Because it's simple. People trust what is clear, and they fundamentally mistrust ambiguity. When your team is unclear on what matters most, they're going to hesitate, they'll get anxious, and you know what? Eventually, they'll just disengage. Clarity is the antidote to all that uncertainty.
So how do you create clarity? Here is an incredibly practical tool you can use in every single conversation. It's the ODC framework. First, O is for outcome. What does success or done actually look like in real observable terms? Second, D is for deadline. When specifically is it due, unless the real ASAP is not a deadline? And finally, C is for clarifiers. What else does the person need from you?
I love this quote because it really gets to the heart of it all. If your team is confused, the problem isn't their effort, it's a lack of leadership clarity. This highlights something huge. Providing clarity isn't just a communication tactic, it is a fundamental leadership decision that actively builds trust every single time.
Okay, now let's talk about the second part of our playbook, credibility. If clarity is about what you say, well, credibility is all about who you are. It is the absolute bedrock of your ability to influence and to lead. Without it, everything else just crumbles. Your credibility isn't just based on one single thing. It's really a combination of 4 key components. It's built consistently by showing up with compassion, which is really just showing you care; character, doing what's right over what's easy; competency, being capable and staying relevant; and contribution, which is all about delivering actual results.
So you might be asking, how do you speed up the process of building credibility? Well, the fastest way is to serve others. When your primary goal shifts from your own success to the success of your team, your intent becomes crystal clear. This is what servant leadership is all about, and it builds this deep, implicit trust.
All right, we've covered the why, the cost of distrust. We've covered the what, that 8 pillars scoreboard, and the how, the playbook for clarity and credibility. Now it's time for the most important part. What are you going to do about it? Because let's face it, knowledge without action doesn't change a thing.
Understanding this framework is that critical first step. But the real impact, the real change, only happens when you translate this blueprint into your own leadership behaviors. So the question becomes, what does this actually mean for you?
So here is your challenge for this week. I want you to look back at the playbook. What is one specific, tangible action you will take based on either that pillar of clarity or the pillar of credibility to intentionally build trust with your team? Decide on it, commit to it, and just see what happens.